Yeah. So I hope my screen is visible to everyone. So I'll just cover up the remaining things, whatever we are left out with, and then we'll start up with the examples what we have to run. And earlier we have discussed about the other design as well. On the Friday, actually, we have discussed on 3x3 patch antenna, right? There was a small correction in the design, which I'll go through these steps, and you can clearly understand it, how exactly it is worked out. So before that, I'll just give you a brief glance on what kind of solvers are left out and what are the additional benefits by taking ESI SEM1 software for electromagnetic simulation. So high frequency solver, this solver is exclusively used for electrically large structures. Like if you want to analyze the performance of a radome, or else if you want to analyze the performance of a complex shapes. It basically uses the technique of physical optics. Physical optics is nothing but it's completely based on the theory of diffraction and reflection. It's based on diffraction, how exactly the light is diffracting uh, on the particular structure, and what is the scattering fields you're getting it. And similarly, the things what we have in this particular high frequency simulation is it's like phased scattering and phased scattering with physical optics, and wedge scattering is reduced from equivalent equations. So if you're taking a structure, like if you're taking a big aircraft, so big aircraft you want to simulate with this physical optics, that is high frequency solver. What you can do is actually it completely solves the problem in terms of optical illumination. So it produces illuminated beams on the top of the particular structure in all directions, based on which you'll be getting facets and wedges. So facets and wedges will be analyzed based on the multiple order of reflections, and you will be completely analyzing the structure analysis with respect to the currents, surface currents which are passing through the object, and similarly you have first order reflection, second order reflection, triple order reflections, etc., based on which the complete performance of the complete structure would be analyzed. So in order to manage directly the edge diffraction, simple double reflections followed by edge diffraction are also taken into account. So high frequency solver, it's nothing but it's based on the optical theory. So you will be projecting optical beams on all the directions of your structure based on your reflections, based on your diffractions and edge currents what you're getting out on the surface. You will be actually evaluating the performance of that particular structure. And coming to hybrid solvers, we can also use a combination of solvers like MOM, MLFM, PO, FDTD, PO based on the application. For example, if you have an application where you have to go ahead with, you want to mount the antenna on structure, and you want to analyze the performance of interference. How exactly one antenna is interfering with the other antenna. In that case, what we can do is for structure we can take one solver, and similarly for antenna we can take one solver. For example, if your antenna is electrically very small, that is in between the range of 0.1 lambda to 10 lambda, then you can directly go ahead with MOM, and physical optics will be actually useful for the structure whatever you're using for analyzing. In the similar fashion, you have FDTD PO, where the main antenna will be analyzed with FDTD, and PO is for complete structure what you're using. And then we have hybrid EFI, CFI equations, which are used for reducing number of iterations and solve the problem at the earliest. So these are some of the hybrid solvers which are utilized in ESI SEM1. And some unique features in SEM1, what we have is all EMC relevant features in single shared model. Importation of industrial CAD model, including the network featuring hundreds of bundles and thousands of wires also you can incorporate. user control on meshing. So this is one of the good feature in ESI Visual software, where you can control the mesh size and even the quality check options, which actually tells you how quality your mesh is all about, and how can you improve the quality of your mesh also. And we have hybridization techniques and MDM, which is nothing but multi-domain method. So if time permits, we'll also go with one example on this. And spherical wave expansion, we've already covered the 3x3 patch antenna, what we have done, right? It's a spherical wave expansion, what we have. And virtual anechoic chamber, you can also prepare a very large simulation case where you can prepare n number of elements, n number of unknowns with a virtual anechoic chamber. So we have micro basis functions. Micro basis functions these are exclusively used if you want to get started with 2D arrays. 2D arrays like M cross N antenna arrays. So we have some example set for 2D arrays also, which you can take it, and you can build your own antennas on your own. So this particular micro basis function is a very easier function to actually get started with the 2D array implementation. So you can use a spherical wave expansion combination and this particular micro basis function in order to create a very big large antenna array, and you can incorporate that into a radome or any other structures whichever is required. And multi-domain multi-method is nothing but domain decomposition technique. So in a simple words, what we can say is it divides the complete problem into subparts. Each and every subpart is individually solved, and together the results will be combined, and then you'll be getting the final results. So that's what happens in MDMM. So installed antenna performance, antenna coupling, cavity RCS of air intakes and exhausts, RCS of installed antennas, waveguides, these all comes under your MDMM technique. Can be easily solved by using MDMM technique. So the idea behind this technique is decomposing the complete problem into subparts and evaluate all the parts individually and then provide the solution at the earliest. That is what is a major idea of this MDMM to solve about. Similarly, benefits, it's a most efficient solver which can be used with MOM, FAM, FEM, MLFMM and PO also. So you can make use of this particular antenna with this particular technique with all the solvers and reduce the computational size, because we are dividing the complex problem into subparts and we are trying to analyze it. So it reduces the things. And similarly, optimal efficiency of MLFMM by extracting the resonant parts such as cavities. So if you're using MLFMM in conjunction with your MDMM technique, you will be getting the optimal efficiency from the output. And similarly, in case of any design changes, only the modified domains need to be recomputed. There is no need of computing the problem from scratch to the end. So whichever part you are modifying, that part will be evaluated. Remaining parts will be as it is put, and thereby you will be saving a lot amount of time. This is one of the unique technique which is used in ESI in order to solve the electromagnetic problems in the defense and even the industries also. So reduce the simulation of swarm antenna. There is a design case which is nothing but swarm antenna, which is for Swedish defense. They have built it. So it solved almost like 8 times faster when we are using MDMM technique. And high level parallelism is also available with this MDMM. So these are some of the benefits. We'll also try to look at the design cases. So this all comes under your product overview. So which solver to use in which kind of circumstances. So you can see it's like physical optics for higher electrical size, MLFM, which is lower electrical size when compared to the physical optics, MOM even furthermore lower electrical size, FEM even the less electrical size, FDTD for some circuits, MTL is for if you want to solve some cabling kind of thing, you can go ahead with that. FEM finite element method, MOM is almost the same. You can go ahead with whatever method you want to use. So this is nothing but your graph chart based on the complexity, based on the electrical size, which particular solver you have to use. That's what is a product overview, what I can show it to you. And this remaining part are the examples and the results what we have, which I'll show it to you in the later phase. Before that, we'll just get started with the thing. So one correction what was required is we have to follow the exact same procedure whatever is being provided in the documentation. One correction what I can say it is, I'll show you. So when I have imported this particular design, what happened is actually, so if you see, when I've imported the particular previous design, so what happened is there was a connectivity missing out between the ground plane and the patch plane. So that's a reason what we have to do is, once you have imported that, we have to go for repair. Under repair, we have to go for check. And then we have to go for stitch adjacent surfaces. So you can see almost nine surfaces whatever we have utilized here were not stitched to the patch layer and ground layer. That's a reason we were getting some issues. And one more correction what we were requiring is, we have to follow the exact thing whatever has been specified in the document. So one correction which was required from the old document to the new document is, so here we have created a material also in the document. As per the document, we have created a material and we have created a PEC boundary condition. So this PEC boundary condition will be allocated for your ground plane and also for your patch. So you can see ground strips and patch is allocated with PEC. Substrate should be remained alone. You don't need to connect any material whatever you have created for substrate. You don't need to connect for this. For this particular patch antenna, we have followed a unique technique. What is all about is, you have to create two mediums. One medium is for the exterior medium, which is only for patches and substrate, and one medium is a dielectric medium, which is for this particular surface. I'll show you how exactly it could be done. So now I have stitched these surfaces. Let me go to auto mesh. Let me select the surface. Let me select all the surfaces. Let me go for create mesh, and this resolution is 0.2 mm as per the document. Just click on create mesh and click on OK. So put it for the wireframe, flat wireframe, so that you'll get the mesh elements. Okay. So here what we have to do is, we have to go to SEM window. Under SEM window, it's already in the FD. I've set it to FD only. So you can go to material editor. You can give your dielectric constant, whatever you have evaluated for. Click on apply, close, and then create a boundary condition, that is PEC for your patch and as well as for your ground. So allocate the materials now. In order to allocate, go to SEM part manager, select your ground strips and patches, select your PEC material, allocate it to both of them. Substrate, you need to leave it alone. And then now what you have to do is, you have to go for medium. In medium, for exterior, you have to allocate two surfaces. So whichever are facing the exterior things, you can allocate it. So patches and substrate, you can put it. Click on apply. Oh, sorry, 1 second. So select your part surfaces, go with patches and substrate, click on OK, and then now click on apply. So exterior boundary will be allocated. And next what we have to do is, this step we have missed it out. Here you have to give your material ID. You have to click here, go to list. Under list you can find whatever material you have imported, that material will be available. If you are renaming it, you will get the renamed text here. You have to select this material, click on OK. So you'll be getting the material. And now here what you have to do is, you have to select all the entities and put inside this particular material, so that your particular substrate which is connected to your patch and also your ground planes will be excited with the dielectric material properly. So for that reason we are doing this until this step is common. And next we will be allocating the frequencies, and all those things are absolutely same. So we have to go for frequency, since it runs for single frequency, whatever is been followed in the document, you can follow the same thing. You can click on add and apply. And then we have to go for sources. We have to go for line sources, and line sources also I've already shown you the thing how to go about. So just close this as of now. Remove your patches. Okay, remove your patches, zoom it, and you can see now the surface is a bit different. Now you can add up your materials. Go to sources, line source, select your edge. By default, if it is showing in the top direction, flip the direction and apply. So in this way, we'll be applying all the line sources. So it's pretty simple. You can flip it and apply it. It's already the same. Go with apply. So now also select the same sources, line source. Since we are already done with that, we are going with some speed actually here. So we have to flip the direction for all the things. Okay, so we are done with almost 9 sources. We have got it. So 9 sources, we have already got it. So here, once you're done with the sources, everyone are a bit confused with multi-source window, right? So this multi-source window, we have to go ahead with the excitations only. On the latest document, we have got into the excitations part. So once you're done with this, it's a nominal step only. Next one, we have to go for outputs. We have to allocate a far field sphere around it and click on apply. So you can also go for spherical wave expansion setup. So select your part IDs, whatever are required for your spherical wave expansion. So once you allocate this, you'll be getting this kind of denomination, and then you have to go for your medium ID, go for list, select your exterior boundary. Okay, exterior boundary, and click on apply. This was one more correction which was required for spherical wave expansion. After that, here you're not finding your excitations directly. That's the reason we have to go for single excitation. Here, let us go for line source and select all the line sources. So once you're done with all the line sources, select your near field, select your currents, also select your far field sphere and assign your far field sphere. Okay, so once we are done with this particular part, click on apply, close it. So you'll be getting one excitation. This is also treated as your multi-source window. Okay. And apart from that, again, we have to go ahead with output parameters, select length unit. It should be in terms of mm. So we have to set the units in terms of mm, and then we have to go about. So once we are clicked about apply, it's done. Now you can save your project at any folder. So select any random folder, save it, and try to run this out. Now you can see it is running, right? So I don't run this, already I've run it already. So we've got the results also. I don't want to run this. So this was the correction which we would require basically whenever we were going with this particular flow. So if we are even if we are following this particular flow, we can go about. So the only correction which is required is you can follow the as it is flow, however we are going about in the document. And one correction we require is it's initially it used to be defined in the form of source, but now it is defined in the excitation. Here also you can see we have to go for single excitation only, go for excitation, and then in the excitation definition window we have to give all the line sources, allocate your far field sphere, give your near field and currents, and then click on apply. That's what is a major difference what we have to go about. Now we'll try to go ahead with the other example what we have done, what we have to go about. So I'll be going with example in a detailed flow. So if anybody has any doubts, just please put the doubts for the end. We'll allocate some time for doubts and then we'll try to solve it up. Okay. So this was the correction which was required for your particular 3x3 patch antenna, whatever we have implemented so far. Now let us just go for the other examples. Let us just give it a try how we have to go about for a UAV simulation in time domain solvers. Okay, let us just think about how to go about. Okay, so let me just take out the design file first. Ready to get. So I'll just copy paste this particular file and then we'll try to go about. So in order to open a new file, you can also drag your file into the application window and then we'll be actually getting the original design file. So once you're done with this, now we'll follow the same steps as it is as mentioned in the document. Okay. So I'll put both the regions simultaneously so that you will also have some comparison study to go about. So the UAV is the same structure, whatever we have implemented here, and even the frequency domain solver also it's the same. Now we have to go about the same kind of simulation where we have to simulate the particular design at 500 megahertz. So azimuth angle, the phi angle will be from 0 to 360 degrees, but the theta angle is from 60 to 120 degrees excitation. You can see it's in the X direction. Why we are going with the X direction is, if you see the complete plane is in the X direction. So we have to create the excitation, which is nothing but your plane wave sequence on the X plus X direction. It has to go to the plus X direction. And vertical E field polarization should be in Z direction. So whatever projections from your particular UAV, it has to be in the top alignment. So now let us just go for a nominal meshing, whichever is required whenever you're going for time domain. So simple, you have to go for 2D. Let me just go for mesh window first. Always your design cycle will start from mesh window. And then here you have to go for 2D auto mesh surfaces. Here in surfaces, select your part 1, convert that into selection, click on create mesh. Okay, I'll just click on undo. Yeah. So now let me just select my surface. So select my complete part, convert to selection, and then click on create mesh. So here I've got my mesh window. So my mesh window, I just want to create a 50 mm mesh size. So this mesh is a not main mesh which we are using, because this kind of meshes will be utilized in frequency domain. But in time domain, as I've told you earlier also, we'll be using a small cubes kind of thing, which will be available in SEM window. So that's what we have to do. So as of now, I'm doing a nominal meshing thing. So we are done with the nominal meshing. Click on OK. So we have got the meshing perfectly. So this is how the meshing will look like. It's almost the same. Now we have to switch the domain to SEM window. So on the mesh part, the main part, what you'll be doing is you will be doing some CAD corrections and you'll be doing some mesh. If required, you'll be also doing some mesh quality check as well. These are the three things what we'll be doing in a mesh window. And then in SEM window, all the parameters, whatever you want to analyze, and the excitations and all those things, whatever you want to analyze, you'll be going about. So in this particular visual SEM, now I have to go for view, go to SEM tree views. I have to set it to eField TD because I'm using a eField TD solver methodology. I mean, time domain solvers, I just want to use it for this application. So I have to go about for the eField TD. So I'm done with this particular thing. So now what we have to do is, so we have to go for FDTD lattice, select the FD mesh under SEM, and FD mesh control window will be opened just like this. So we have to allocate a boundary for this particular UAV, whatever you have created. So we'll be using the same parameters. These parameters, as I've told you earlier, you can go for some approximations for this particular thing also. You can go for box and then you can go for different things actually. So now go to SEM window, go to your FD mesh tuning, or as FD mesh, sorry, FD mesh you have to go about. So for FD mesh, we are getting this geometrical window. So let me just allocate a box for this. So minus 300. So I'll utilize the same grid, whatever has been specified for this. It's always about the approximation. Okay, you are creating a boundary box for your UAV. It's always about your approximation, how exactly you're going about. And this delta number is also 30. I'll put it. So it's like each and every cell size will be like somewhere like 30 difference will be available. Similarly, minus 440 to plus 700 and a 30 of shift will be available. Advanced options, I want to create 10 cells for each and everything. So we are done with this particular box. So you can see the box dimensions almost like you'll be getting this many number of boxes directions. Okay, so this is how you'll be getting started with the splitting of the screen. Okay, so now if I click on my generate mesh, let me just check it out. What other things are available? So press generate mesh and open generate FD mesh. Select generic eMesh for generating tool. Click also on the edit selections under selections in the opened FD mesh part selection window and make sure the model part is selected. Press create FD mesh button. Generate FDTD mesh after successful meshing. Press close. So click on generate mesh. This is the first option. And then here we have to select generic eMesh only. Go for edit selections. Select your level 1. Already it's been selected. Click on close. Now let's go for create FD mesh. Yeah, it's asking me to save this particular file into a specific directory. So I would like to create a working directory for that. Yeah. So now we are done with this particular thing. Just click on close. So we are done with the FDTD box, whatever we have got. So here what you can do is you can create your you can remove your okay, see your UAV is completely divided into sub